this morning, and welcome to a Business is Picking Up When It Comes to Offensive Recruiting edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor if you haven't already and smash that like button. Please consider subscribing to the channel. It costs you nothing, it's 100% free, and it absolutely helps us out. The other thing you can do to help us out is if at any point during this video something strikes your fancy, leave a comment down in the comment section below. That'll help get it out to a greater, broader audience, much like yourself. So, let's talk offensive line. And if you were frequenting any OSU podcasters last year at this time and throughout the off season, no doubt you heard us all complain about Justin Fry's recruiting. Not something that he was all that good at, I guess we could say, or at least not something that he had thought out well as far as his approach was concerned. Did he get some recruits? Yeah, he got some. But as far as all the position groups, he was really lacking behind. Let's just be honest about that. Um, his philosophy was to be more of a sniper when it came to recruiting, pinpoint the guys he wanted, and not send out as many offers so that it appeared that getting an offer as an offensive lineman at Ohio State was a big deal. And that approach was a failure because he swung and missed way, way too much. And because he didn't cast a broader net, he was left scurrying at the end of each season. And so it appeared he doubled down on this approach year after year instead of adjusting his approach. And I thought it was going to catch up with him. But much to my surprise, I'm going into this season thinking Ohio State off on the offensive line has got great depth. This is the first year, and I've said this before. This is the first year in a long time that going into the season, I'm super high on the offensive line. They've got great depth. They've got a ton of experience, especially on the interior. They've gone out in the transfer portal and brought in a couple great tackles. I think you got some guys who can move from the inside to the outside and compete at the tackle position, a la Donovan Jackson last year, midseason and beyond. And so, because of this, I feel very comfortable going into this season that the offensive line is going to be a strength on the offense. Of course, we have the best wide receiver room in college football. There's no argument about that. By the way, that's where a lot of the NIL dollars are going to keep those five-star guys and potential first-round draft picks happy and on the roster. But none of that matters if you don't have an offensive line. And by the way, it doesn't matter how good your wide receivers are or even how good your running back is if A, you're not giving your quarterback time to throw the ball with great pass pro, or B, you're creating running lanes for your running back. So it all begins and ends, in my opinion, up front in the trenches on the lines. And Ohio State got great line play throughout the second half of the season into the college football playoff. Hats off to Justin Fry. Congratulations, my man. You obviously were doing a better job than any of us podcasters realized because your development of that offensive line has been elite. So much so, the NFL came knocking, right? Now, in steps the new offensive offensive line coach Tyler Bowen from um, Virginia Tech, former OC at Virginia Tech, and right off the bat, guys, there has been a huge difference in his approach at recruiting the position than what we had under Justin Fry. It is more of the style of approach that I am familiar with and that I kind of like. He's casting a much broader net. He is emphasizing recruiting much more than what Justin Fry did. And so, and there were some coaching hires this week that were brought to our attention that I think emphasize the fact that Bowen is, yeah, he's the offensive line coach. Yeah, he's in charge of that room. Yeah, he was brought in to help Brian Hartline in when it comes to the running game, all of those things, which we've all talked about. but they brought him in a ton of help to help develop, and his job, I think, more so than anything, is to bring the talent into Columbus. Completely different approach than what Justin Fry had, and I think it also shows that Ryan Day is putting a much greater emphasis on the offensive line and his attention on the offensive line than maybe what he's done in the past. Maybe there was this great belief in Justin Fry because of their past history together and their friendship, etc., that he was kind of more hands off. And maybe now he understands with the fact that Brian Hartline is the OC, he's going to have to make sure that that offensive line is solidified moving forward. And so I present to you that there's been a little bit of a change of philosophy over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center from the top down when it comes to how to build that room in the offensive line. So, if you look at how many offers have gone out from Ohio State on the offensive line, it's like doubled or tripled what it was at this time last year. So, you have, as I scroll down here through 247 Sports, 15 offensive tackles have been offered, and at the guard position, you have had 12. So that's 27. I don't think Justin Fry offered 20 people last year total. Maybe maybe it got up to 25 by the end when he kind of started to panic a little bit, but it is obvious to me they are casting a much broader net when it comes to the offensive line recruiting. And rightfully so, right? You got to fill 5 to 6 positions in recruiting each and every single year. And as you lose guys to the portal, you've got to replace guys from the portal. Out of all the position rooms in at Ohio State, the most difficult, in my opinion, to try to recruit to is the offensive line, just because you have two things going against you. The amount of people that you need year to year because you're filling 5 starting positions, number one. And number two, it's a developmental position. It's not typically a position you can go get a guy and plug in as an 18-year-old freshman in college and think you're going to be good at. It's not going to happen. You need to develop these guys. They need to grow into their man body, man. And that takes time. It usually takes 2 to 3 years before an offensive line is developed enough and ready to physically enough to take on the position of being a starting offensive lineman in Division One college football, especially at the level that Ohio State expects. So, that being said, that's another difficult thing to try to do is like, hey, I'm going to recruit you with the understanding that you're probably not going to get on the field for the first 2 years, you know? So that's something to think about. Now, let's go back to what I'm talking about. Case in point, 11 Warriors sent out an article. They wrote an article that Evan Goodwin, a offensive lineman from Arkansas, when was the last time we recruited somebody from Arkansas? I can't. I don't remember. Anyways, he got an offer from Ohio State, uh, 4-star offensive lineman, and he's super pumped about it, man. He's super excited about it. He says he told 11 Warriors he was shocked. He said I was shocked really going from a kid who thought he was going to play Division II when I was in ninth grade to getting offered by the defending national champions is pretty crazy. Um, so there's that aspect of it. There's another aspect of the story that I'll come back to in just a second. But this is a kid that, in all honesty, in my opinion, Justin Frein would have never even considered. I don't even know if he would have ever even looked at his film. Maybe, maybe he would have glanced at it and thought, he's from Arkansas, and I'm not going to spend my time going down the SEC to try to get the guy because he's not a 5-star, and I don't want to devalue my offer, right? That was, I think, the philosophy and why he wouldn't go offer a kid like this. But development as an offensive lineman, like the steps you take in high school from your sophomore year to your junior year to your senior year, are immense for some of these guys because they're still growing into their bodies, and because they're so much larger, sometimes they can look awkward as they're kind of fumbling around and maturing into those bodies. And so you have to kind of see beyond maybe what he looked like as a freshman and sophomore and see what's the potential when he gets to college. What are his physical traits? What's his height? How big is dad and mom? So what can we kind of foreshadow him being as far as his size, his strength, right? His mobility, his hands, his hand-eye and hand-foot coordination. All of these things are things you need to kind of look at, engage, and kind of project upon an offensive lineman. Where some of the other positions, it's more just obvious. It's what you see is what you get. So this is somebody that I think Justin Fry would have totally avoided, in my opinion. But I'm glad to see that our new offensive line coach in Bowen, he's going after kids like this. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's a change in philosophy from Ryan Day, and that there's been more of an emphasis put on the offensive line coaching as far as the development aspect. And that is, if you go look at the three offensive analysts that were just hired, three of them, all three of these guys are offensive line slash tight end guys. All three. Look, I think Ryan Day's like, look, we got quarterback and wide receiver handled. We got Coach Locke, running back, we good. Where we need to focus is on the offensive line and making sure we have a great running attack that doesn't miss a beat now that we've lost Chip and Justin Fry from our offensive staff. We need to make sure that that aspect of our offense remains positive, remains healthy, and becomes good for us because look, without it, I don't care how good Jeremiah Smith is, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Mylan Graham. I don't care how good these guys are, Rogers, Bryson Rogers. It doesn't matter if you can't run the football, if you can't pass pro, right? So you have to have those aspects of the game taken care of. And so Ryan Day goes out, he gets Marcus Johnson and Charlie Dickey, two offensive line coaches who've coached at Division One level, and then he goes out and he gets Wendy Laurent, who was a tight ends coach at Dartmouth and was the starting center at Penn State when he played. So three offensive line slash tight end guys. Two of them coached at high levels in Division One, bringing in as analysts, helping with that offensive line development for Coach Bowen, and he goes out and he gets a tight end slash center who played at Penn State. Um, Again, more development, might be able to work with the tight ends as well as far as their offensive blocking from that position. And we're going to make sure we shore up what we lost in Chip Kelly and Justin Fry in the running game department, right? So we're going to give Brian Hartline every advantage we need, and it's going to allow Bowen to just spend a little bit more time recruiting because these guys can spend a little bit more time on development. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me, man. By the way, we'll be doing a video here very shortly in the coming weeks. We're going to update everybody on where we're at Ohio State in recruiting, and we'll probably break it down by position and make some videos for you that are doing all of that. But it is paramount, paramount that we do not have a bad year recruiting the offensive line. And here's why, and this is where we'll end the video. This is a great offensive line class. I mean, phenomenal. And in the state of Ohio, it might be one of the best offensive line classes in the state of Ohio I have seen in the better part of a decade or more. And we cannot swing and miss this year when it comes to recruiting this state. Now, Clemson is snuck into Ohio, and if you look at the top offensive linemen in the state of Ohio, the top three, who we need to go out and make sure we keep home, Clemson is the team that is doing the best recruiting these guys. And I remember losing a top offensive line recruit from the Dayton, Cincinnati area to Dabo once a couple years ago, about 6, 7 years ago. I don't want to see that happen again. We need to make sure we sure that up and these guys stay home. And that is object challenge number one for Coach Bowen is to keep these guys home. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. If you'd like to purchase a official get free shipping. If you are a member and you don't know the super secret code, email us at theohiopodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's theohiopodcast@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to email you back the super secret code so that you too can get free shipping on your OHIO podcast mug. And when you drink your coffee, you can smash it as well. All right, guys. Thank you so much today. Let me know in the comment section below if you think this what I've presented to you this morning. If you believe it, if you understand it, what do you think about these guys? Are there any of these recruits in the 2026 class you're super excited about that you want to make sure that Ohio State grabs so you can see their development over the next 3 to 4 years at Ohio State as well? Let me know in the comments section below. Have a great Friday, everybody. We really appreciate all of you. And on our way out, all of this talk about protecting what's valuable at the quarterback and running back position and making sure our wide receivers can succeed and because we have great pass pro reminds me of one of my favorite verses, Ephesians chapter 6 verse 11. Put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Make sure you're protected because the devil's out there to try to trip you up. By the way, all that armor, it's all on the front. There's nothing on the back. No retreat, right? No retreat. No retreat, Ohio State. Have a great Friday, everybody. Remember, like, share, subscribe. It helps the channel. Be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, you know what to do. Go Bucks.